I'm Jared.
I'm Marcus.
And welcome to a short episode of Level With Us, where we're going to be talking about the Steam Deck. So I ordered the Steam Deck a year ago, and my coworker got his in the mail first. For like a whole month or two, I was super jealous of him, but then mine finally came through, and more people are getting their hands on it. I wanted to call this episode a review of it, but in a way, it's still kind of a review in progress because Valve regularly updates it with like completely brand new features that change how it works. But I guess we'll get more into that later. Marcus, how do you like it so far, now that you've had your hands on it for a bit?
Yeah, Jared's letting me borrow his because I would say I'm still waiting for mine, but I have not ordered one as of yet. It's been really cool. It's, I think, a really good system. There are very few downsides, especially if someone is into Steam gaming, already has a large Steam library. It's a very, I would say, like cost-effective purchase because looking at a similar computer that would be able to do the things that it does, it would be much more expensive. So just in terms of cost value, it's easier for me to say since I didn't buy this one. But I think that it's pretty impressive that they have essentially made a handheld video game system out of a computer.
Yeah, and that's the thing about it is, you know, looking at it, you're like, this is a console. But it's a computer. You can plug it in to a monitor. I haven't done it yet, but you can, you know, do a keyboard and mouse and monitors and everything with a powered USB hub. You know, you said that it's worth it if you have a Steam library, and that's kind of what this was for me. I've put off buying a PC for the longest time because it's so expensive, but this was kind of an excuse to finally have something to play my Steam library on. I've accumulated a lot of games over the years, mostly indie titles, and a lot of them are through, you know, Humble Bundle and charity bundles and stuff like that, but I've never really had a device to play them on because my old college laptop is definitely on its last legs and doesn't run things very well. So this was kind of the perfect timing for me. It was like, I want to have something to play this library, but I really don't want to get into the PC kind of space of having to build your own PC, and I don't know. I have friends who love building their own PC, and I see the appeal. It's just really, really expensive. But I've heard people kind of justify it as like, well, you know, PCs are really expensive to build, but once you've built it, you know, you've got like games get discounted so much on the PC. You can get games for dirt cheap, which is true. And that's why I have a large Steam library. So that kind of made this purchase worth it for me, was I don't have to build it. It'll, you know, last me a good long while, and I finally have access to all these games I own.
What do you feel like is unique or good about the hardware of this system? Like the buttons and stuff?
Yeah.
Are there any unique features, would you say?
Well, it has nice big thumbsticks, so it has that over the Switch for sure. Although they are a little slippery. I don't know about you. Sometimes my thumbs will kind of slide off the touch capacitive tops of the sticks. No, just me.
I mean, I found that if you get your hand covered in a nice layer of dirt or grime, it actually acts as a sort of natural friction.
Gotcha. Okay, so maybe some sand or something, just a light dusting on my fingers.
Yeah,
it's a good life hack. Yeah, no, I like the buttons. That's what you're asking.
I realized I am so underqualified to be talking about video game hardware.
No. You have a podcast. You're good.
Oh, that makes me an expert. That's true.
30 episodes.
Oh, silly me.
Yeah, no, it feels good. Like the triggers feel great. The buttons feel good. The touchpads work pretty well as a mouse substitute. They're not perfect, but you know, they work.
That's what I think is probably the most interesting part of it, or unique part of it, compared to the other controllers or gamepads that I've used previously. And I think one thing that really helps is kind of the haptic feedback, or the rumble when you touch these touchpads to control the mouse. Anyway, basically it has a little bit of vibration feedback. And I feel like that makes it pretty useful. I feel like that really helps it.
It makes it definitely easier to use when it comes to like mouse games. So you and I both played Inscription on it, and that is a very mouse-driven game. But I got through it just fine. You know, I would switch between the right stick and the touchpad, but both worked pretty well. Just for pointing and clicking.
Yeah, the button mapping of certain games is pretty interesting because, you know, there are certain games they flag as like, oh, this one is, you know, Steam Deck compatible. Other ones where it's like unverified. I think everything is like technically playable on it, right? Because you can do an on-screen keyboard.
It's a computer, and
right.
Yes, you can pull up a keyboard. But you know, this thing is a computer, but they're basically like, well, we know this is a small screen, so like some games are not optimized to have their text big enough. Others really do need a mouse, you know, so they'll just kind of put some caveats, which is helpful. It's nice to see those ratings, and there are some that straight up don't run on it. Because it's Linux and, you know, things like that. But for the most part, I haven't had too many issues. Most of the games I've wanted to play, I've been able to play. And I've done a good mix of them. I've done Elden Ring, which is, you know, kind of a more recent game, definitely more taxing on the hardware. Like I said, Inscription, I've kind of, you know, dug into some old games I used to play a lot, like Rocket League and Tadpole Trouble, among others.
There is not much in common with those two.
Right. I just tried to do a good mix, you know, some games that are light indie titles and others that are more graphically intense. And yeah, they do pretty well. It hasn't bugged me too much. There hasn't been a game where I'm like, ugh, I want to play this on a computer, you know. It works. So
I had my roommate play the beginner's guide because it's a short experience, and I've been talking about it with him. Some of it was pretty tedious, partially my fault because I didn't at that point know the shortcut to put on the on-screen keyboard to have it pop up. And I was like, oh, it'll be fine. You don't have to press too many buttons in it, but you actually have to press several buttons at different points. So we would like hit the menu button, hit the keyboard button, hit the key on the keyboard, like get rid of the keyboard. And then it asks us to press another button. So then we go back to menu, keyboard. Anyway, I guess what I'm saying is just I think that we could have spent a few minutes optimizing it for our gaming experience, but I'm lazy, so I didn't do that. And so I think our gaming experience suffered somewhat, but at least we were able to play it.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things I took for granted, since this is I know it's not truly like, oh, I'm a PC gamer now. This is kind of a half step towards that. But something that I've noticed picking this thing up is I have a much better appreciation for how idiot-proof the Switch is. Because this one, you know, there's a lot of options. There's a lot of, you have to optimize things. And that was another thing that kind of scared me away from PC gaming in the first place, is you always have to upgrade your graphics card, and you always have to, you know, etc. So yeah, you know, there are some things where I'm like, oh, I have to Google how to optimize this for Proton, and like one game wouldn't even open, and I had to figure out how to do some advanced settings, figure out how the SSD works, like even just saving something to the SD card or to the hard drive, like there's kind of a bit of a process to switch it, and things like that. But you know, like I said, Valve is updating it. They've made some updates that have made things a little easier, a little simpler. Like you couldn't even remap controls easily on a game basis, but you can now, which is great. You know, lots of things like that. But by the same token, you know, the Switch people consider very restrictive. I think its strengths lie in you can pick up and play it really, really easy. It's a really simple interface, and you could just jump into games. Whereas Steam, you know, you gotta to find it, you gotta load it up, you gotta boot it up, you gotta optimize it, you have to change the graphical settings so it runs smoother, etc. But, you know, you can't really do other things with the Switch besides play Switch games. Whereas the Steam Deck, I've seen people do crazy things online with it. And not just emulation, although that is a very big popular thing right now, as people are playing emulating a lot of old games on it. But yeah, I've seen people do crazy things like with multiple displays too. Like people will do Wii U games with a TV, and then the They got the Steam Deck.
Oh, nice.
Fan games that were previously, you had to download them on a computer. You can now actually play them with a controller really easily. It's cool. It's cool. I like stuff like this.
It's like that decades-old PC versus Mac debate. Traditionally, Mac is considered to be more user-friendly, but more restrictive and like being open about what's actually happening under the hood. I feel a bit of that, like you were saying, between this and me playing on my Switch Lite. Like this one gives me the option to, see what the stats are of the GPU and frame rate and stuff like that. And never once in my life have I said, man, I really wish I knew what the GPU was right now. So
that's just for the hardcore techie people.
Well, and I mean, maybe it's also for people who don't consider themselves like techie, but it's definitely, a different, I'm more of a pick up and play kind of person.
Sure.
But I think that I can physically pick it up and play games. So
true.
It's got that going for it.
And you can play games that can't run on the Switch. So
exactly.
What's been like your favorite gaming experiences on it so far? I know you haven't borrowed it for too long.
Well, Inscription. I've just been wanting to play that for a while, so I was happy that I got to, and it also was nice to kind of see how mouse games functioned, or at least one of them that's more turn-based than anything, which I think helps make it not so stressful. I've also started to play some Elden Ring. I'm no longer my grandma names the characters of Elden Ring. I'm no longer ignorant to the lore.
I almost posted that for that episode. I almost posted, my brother tries to name Elden Ring characters. Lol.
Well, didn't you have the thumbnail say like Pope Turtle? Idiot.
That's still there.
Oh, good.
It
good,
still
good,
says
good.
Pope Turtle in quotes or something like that. I don't know.
Classic.
How does Elden Ring run? Like, have you ever once been like, oh, the GPU is subpar on this? I wish I was playing Elden Ring on something more powerful.
On a Switch.
No.
No, but I don't know if this is true. It feels like the battery life is a little shorter than it would be than other games that I've played on Switch.
Oh, yeah, for sure. That makes sense.
Also, this has been said about the Steam Deck, but the fan is really loud, especially if you're not used to there being a fan in your handheld.
Yeah, and I'll say you've just touched both things that I was going to kind of save as a quick jab.
Quick jab.
So I'll just say it now. Quick jabs.
And jab.
The fan bugs me so much. It's so loud. And I've heard like a good solution is, you can put your earbuds in and sync it. And, I have AirPods, which have noise cancellation, but it still bugs me. Just how hot it gets and how loud the fan gets when I'm trying to play, a more graphically intense game. Now they did update it, which is apparently something you can do, is you can just send a digital update to a system and suddenly the fan works better now. Isn't that crazy? Like, firmware updates can actually affect the hardware, which is crazy.
Wild.
Yeah, it's crazy. So now it doesn't run constantly. Now it only runs for a little bit and then dies away, and then comes back on, and then over time, which is almost worse in a way. So maybe that wasn't a great update. I don't know. No, actually the fan has been. It used to run even for like really light indie games for me, which was really unfortunate, But now I've noticed it's only for the more intense stuff. So at least the patch made it better. But the fan is pretty bad. I didn't realize how good I had it with the Switch fan. Like the Switch fan never. I know it's not that powerful, but like it never has bugged me before. And the battery life as well. I've never been able to really truly get a full gaming session in it. Like, it's died on me multiple times because I don't really have a comfortable place where I can plug it in and play it at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
So battery life ain't great. Fan not fun.
Maybe just a longer cord.
Yeah, yeah, that might solve my issue, but it's still not ideal. I want to play this. The whole point, one of the big draws for me was I love playing the Switch in handheld mode. That's actually usually my favorite way to play games, even though I prefer the Pro Controller overall over the Joy-Cons. There's still something cozy about just finding a comfy place and having it in the palm of my hand where I don't have to wear glasses. So for the Steam Deck, it's the same thing. I just want to do some gaming.
That's the end of the sentence, huh?
Yes, but the battery isn't great. So playing Tunic on it was pretty fun. Once again, the fan was pretty bad for that game for some reason, but that seemed like a game that was perfect for handheld.
I believe it.
And I really liked it. So yeah, it took a few weeks, but I like the Steam Deck. The first couple plays I did with it, the other issues kind of weighed down the experience for me, and I was even like, maybe I should sell this at some point. But now that I'm like finally getting to try games that I couldn't really play at all before because I didn't have a system to play it on, it's really nice to have this as an option. So I guess the question is, are you going to purchase one now, Marcus?
I mean, not right now.
Could you see yourself owning one down the road, or is it more like, nah?
I feel like there has to be something that comes after this. I'd be kind of surprised if I end up getting this iteration of the Steam Deck.
Yeah,
that would
that's
mean
fair.
It would have to kind of have a bit of longevity to it.
I'm sure they're going to make a much lighter one that's better to hold and has less battery issues and stuff down the road.
Well, I think of like the first DS. Like whenever anyone talks about the DS, they're really talking about the DS Lite or the 3DS. Like they're not thinking of the original run.
Right, because the original didn't have a very good screen and it was also very chunky.
It was a chunky boy. This also is a chunky yet lovable boy. So I might consider it, but I mean, once I give it back to you, I'll
You'll just forget about it.
Well, there are plenty of games that I haven't played on Switch, right? Like, I still have a sizable backlog on systems that I already own, so.
Same. And I guess on that note, like, I'm hoping that this Steam Deck will lead to me killing my backlog, because my backlog is enormous. It's astronomical. There's a bazillion games I've bought and never played on the Switch and Steam Deck. And I'm hoping that this will allow for future Level With Us episodes, but we'll just have to see.
For sure.
Cool. Well, thank you for joining me, as always. We'll be back next week to chat more games, but until then, I'm Jared.
I'm Marcus.
And we'll level with you then.